station, I have melted about a tablespoon of ghee, and to that I'm going to start toasting my pine nuts and my almonds. I'm going to do them in 2 different goes, and I'm going to make sure my flame is medium to low, because if you've ever tried to toast pine nuts, they're really easy to burn. So I'm going to start with the pine nuts, and because my almonds are really thin, I'm going to do that afterwards, because they're going to cook differently. Now you can adjust however much you want pine nuts in here. Just going to leave it for a minute and then continuously keep stirring it as it goes. I'm going to prepare my plate that I'm going to cover with a paper towel, so it's going to absorb a little bit of the grease off the pine nuts. Stay right there and I'll be right back. Voila! Now you just have to be a little patient with this and just watch it carefully and sit over it and stir it. And when I remove it, I don't want to remove all the grease, so I'm going to use a slotted spoon just to remove my nuts, because in the same grease that I'm cooking the pine nuts and the almonds, we're going to cook our onions, our diced onions, and our minced lamb. So keep a nice flavor going. And after that, we will season and taste and adjust to our flavored liking. Now some of them are starting to brown, so it's really important to keep them going, because a part of the pan is always a little hotter than the other. So I'm using about 1.5 cups of rice, and what I'd like to do is wash my rice 2 or 3 washes. So here we go, there's 1. Dump it back in the bowl. And 2, and then let it just soak a little bit. And then drain it. Now of course I've washed my sink, since the bird was sitting in it, thoroughly with hot water and soap. No cross-contamination in my kitchen. Now you can have your rice soaking for up to 30 minutes. And once it's done, put it in a colander and drain it so it'll be free of water. And then add it to the lamb and the pine nuts and the onions. And then we'll stuff it and let it cook a little bit. So I'm going to leave that a little bit alone. And check back on my pine nuts. You see they're starting to brown beautifully. Another minute or so and I'm going to remove these. And pine nuts are so expensive. The reason why they are so expensive, because they are really not hard, but it takes very meticulous work to get the pine nut out of the shell, which hides in the pine cone. I remember as a child in Lebanon, my mother and our family would go to a lot of picnics, and we would gather. That was one of our things to do, is gather pine cones that have fallen off of the pine tree and get the nut shell out of there. And then get a really flat rock, 2 of them, and carefully place the nut shell on the rock and pound it very carefully, because these guys can smush really easy. So we just do it very carefully and then get the pine nut out of the pine shell. Okay, I don't want to take this any further, so I'm going to transfer. You can toast them a little more if you'd like. I'm going to stop right here. And then I'm going to add my almonds, which won't take but a second. Well, a little more than a second. But since the pan is really hot and the ghee is going, it's not going gonna take a long time. Excellent. Just gonna leave that here. My stomach is growling. It smells good already. I've also preheated my oven. It's preheating as we speak to 425, and I've taken all of the racks out except one, and I've kept it on the lower part of the oven. I'm gonna go drain my rice real quick into this colander. So some of the starch has left the grain, and I don't end up with sticky rice. Okay, let's give it a good tilt. Let it be for a moment. And these are starting to brown a little bit. They're not going to take as long as our pine nuts will. You can use whole almonds. They don't have to be like this thin. This is what I found and I had on hand in my pantry. So I'm going to use it. Now next, after this, goes the onions. Whoa, a few almonds overboard. Hot too. You can do so much with leftover turkey. Soups, wraps, salads, quesadillas. Possibilities are endless, but my favorite is turkey soup because I have enough of the stuffing to actually put in the soup as well. It's really, really good. And add whatever your favorite vegetables to the soup. I usually like to add a little mushroom, celery, carrots, squash if I have any on hand, but mainly those three. So I'm finishing dicing my onion, which is the next step here. I have the pan hot and ready, and you gotta be careful. Okay. More of the dice. And I'm going to put it in my bowl and take it right to the pan. This will saute for a few more minutes until it's translucent, and then we're going to introduce the minced lamb to it.